Radar plus 3. Okay, so back online, ladies and gentlemen. Official test starts on 2 minutes. 5 pages, 5 paragraphs each. 5 words each sentence, 5 sentences per paragraph, 5 computer spaces in between. 5 revisions. You can use your hyperscientific, you can use any artificial intelligence, you can use any technology, but you must show the work and share it with the class. If you do not show the work and share it with the class, I'm going to assume all you did was use technology, you're going to get 0 credit for it. All right? So let's rock and roll. Today, what I'm working on is my priority list, which I'm going to do online, and I'm going to jumpstart today's article for Future Tech Plus. I decided to write the first Love edition. I don't think I've done an edition for Love. So in the meantime, I got a jump start. Decisions in the last. I listened in a little bit in the China show. And we're gonna check on the age of trade.
People don't understand that the world's always evolving. In 1880, you lived to 40. 40. 40 was the average life expectancy. So when I see people that are 52 and 49 and 47 and there's unhappiness, they have that moment, whatever it is, their 50th birthday, a bad day at work. It could be anything that triggers the, fuck, this is it. All those dreams I had, it's over. Look at me. With age comes more worry. Your kids, older kids are bigger headaches than little kids. Things start to happen. You lose a parent. This is what happens when you get to 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. But I'm like, yes, you're 46. You'll probably live another 46 years. Probably, by the way. And what are you going to do about it? Because I promise you, if you start dwelling that it's fucked up or over or not as good as I want it to be, you're really making a huge mistake because you have a lot of life left. People don't understand it.
All right, so let's go Bloomberg.
Maybe not necessarily with a rate hike, but in terms of not cutting, the Bank of England's Lord Daly said he's prepared to act over any persistent.
Let's go.
I emphasize again, it is free to join my community. The stocks I share are also free.
What are my beautiful wives? Shout out to all my beautiful wives.
This is Asia Trade. I'm Shirian in Tokyo. I'm Heidi Stradwatts in Sydney. The top stories this hour. Oil and gas prices surge as Iran and Israel trade strikes on key Middle East LNG facilities. Tehran saying energy sites across the Gulf are now legitimate targets.
The implications of events in the Middle East for the U.S. economy are uncertain. In the near term, higher energy prices will push up overall inflation, but it's too soon to know the scope and duration of the potential effects on the economy.
Well, the Fed holds and continues to flag one rate cut this year, even while raising its inflation outlook. Traders aren't buying it, trimming their bets on any easing. Asian stocks are set for declines after the S&P 500's worst Fed day since 2024. And surging oil prices also in focus for the Bank of Japan as traders await clues for future hikes and a hold expected today. Yeah, all 51 economists surveyed by Bloomberg expecting that hold to come from the Bank of Japan. But of course, it's really those clues when it comes to the inflation outlook and what the BOJ will do in order to really support the economy, which will be key in today's press conference by Governor Ueda. We are seeing Nikkei futures at the moment under a little bit of pressure after we saw those gains in the last session. We're also seeing a little bit of strength for the Japanese yen. Of course, the Japanese yen and the weakness. Key issue for the Bank of Japan. This at a time when we're also Takaichi to meet with President Trump tonight in the United States. So we'll be watching for any headlines around support on the Iran war. And we're watching the staggered open at the ASX 200 to watch out for the Aussie dollar. Of course, we had a little bit of a mixed picture for the dollar, but after the hawkish messaging coming from the Federal Reserve, we'll be watching for those repercussions in the FX space. The Kospi had already gained to highs that we haven't seen in about a month. We could see some more more downside pressure, especially in the tech sector, because we have also heard from Mike, yes, their revenue outlook beat estimates, but it's always the concern around capital spending. There's a lot of concerns overall, particularly when it comes to how central banks navigate the path from here, right? Take a look at what we're watching when it comes to a muted session overnight. It wasn't a great reaction to the Fed, of course, and we're seeing that softness in US equity futures as well. A little bit lower when it comes to WTI as well, off the overnight highs that we saw. Treasuries, we also saw being sold off across the curve on Wednesday. Yields are being pushed higher. We're lifting the dollar as well after we heard from Jay Powell about just the fresh uncertainty that we continue to see from the Iran Middle East conflict situation. But take a listen to the Fed chair when he tries to characterize what he's seeing when it comes to the progress on inflation.
The thing that's really important that we see this year is progress on inflation through a reduction in goods inflation as the one-time effects on prices of tariffs go through the system, go through the economy. That's the main thing we're looking for going into this exercise. And we need to be seeing that to sort of understand that we actually are making progress, because on net we didn't make progress.
Let's bring up to Lisa Markets Live Asia coverage. What stood out to you from hearing from Chair Powell?
Well, I thought it was quite extraordinary that they were so focusing on tariffs still. It seemed like yesterday's story, especially considering that one of the things that maybe people haven't been paying so much attention to the last little while is that the Trump administration is still pushing ahead with trying to reinstate the tariffs that the Supreme Court has struck down. So with that being the case, will the tariff situation do much to take the edge off inflation? Doesn't really look like it, and that's almost certainly going to be overwhelmed by what's happening in the Persian Gulf. And also, we had a PPI reading that was showing a pickup in cost pressures from there. So it was a little bit discordant, the tariff focus, but the thing that the message that still came through was they are worried about inflation. And we've seen with the RBA this week what happens when the central bank becomes worried about inflation.
What did the updated dot plot tell us? Because there's also the issue of the weakening labor market, right?
Yes, again, the updated dot plot did lean towards that concern about inflation. It was a little bit less instinctively accommodative. Board FOMC members clearly remain concerned about what's going on with jobs. That's there. That's part of the baseline. But the other part of the baseline is what's going on with inflation, and the inflation concerns have clearly ticked up. So I would argue it offers more potential, even just the current setup, that the Fed remains on hold, for longer, and doesn't even, sort of move towards accommodation until they can be sure the war is in the rearview mirror. The other thing about that was that in the press conference, Powell kind of indicated that you don't want to regard the dot plot as in any way set in stone, sort of even more than usual, because it just doesn't take into account what's going to happen because of the war, because they don't know yet. So, I don't think the dot plot gave much comfort to anybody who was looking for the Fed to help out the U.S. economy in the short term.
There's a new angle when it comes to the oil worries, right? Because even if we see the war ending tomorrow, the Strait of Hormuz being opened up again, the risk now from these damaged energy assets across the region is starting to play out.
Yes, very much so. And it's one of the things that markets are having some extra difficulty in pricing, at least on the surface of it, because this isn't really about oil. There's one part of the oil market that is showing attention. That's the way that Brent is showing a greater premium to WTI, because Brent is the international barrel, whereas WTI is for internal US. But the real problem is the gas facilities like LNG. Qatar has had damage to its refinery, which accounts for something like 20% in the normal case of things of global supplies of LNG. And there are no strategic reserves of LNG. And Asia, especially Korea, but also Japan, has been very dependent on Middle Eastern suppliers of LNG. And then alongside that, there's the fertilizer, which a lot of the fertilizer production, again, comes from LNG being turned into, being used to produce fertilizer. So those impacts are going to do economic damage and cost pressure increases globally and especially in Asia. And yes, that's not something you can switch back on, even if you could magically reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
Tax expertise without fees. Switch to a TurboTax expert for $150. All tax situations, all returns.
Not something you can switch back on, even if you could magically reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
Garfield Reynolds, who leads our Market Live Asia coverage there, as we continue to watch the Middle East developments. One reason why the Bank of Japan is also widely expected to keep its benchmark rate unchanged later today. We continue to see soaring oil prices, of course, and that's going to complicate the bank's efforts to reach that 2% inflation target at a time. And on the other hand, you also have a weakening Japanese yen, very close to that 160 level. For more, let's bring in our economy and government reporter Yoshiaki Nohara. Yoshi, so we weren't necessarily expecting the BOJ to move, but we're thinking that perhaps if it doesn't, that we could see more pressure on the Japanese yen. But given what's happening in the Middle East, is that sort of a good justification for the BOJ to be like, look, nobody can move at this point? I wonder if that will actually help with the yen as well.
Well, that's a really good question, Sherry. So the consensus is that the no move, no rate hike this time. But it's all about Governor Ueda's and also Paul's messaging about the situation, about two main things. One is how they assess the wage negotiations early results, which sounds really good. But at the same time, they have to assess the big unknown, which is about how the Middle East situation is going to affect the Japanese economy, not just inflation, but the economy, because the inflation is likely to be supported by higher oil, but that's not good for growth. So it's a very difficult balance that the Governor Ueda has to navigate when he tries to communicate its stance to the markets today.
When it comes to domestic drivers, if we set aside the global reflation story, how are things like household confidence, spending, wage growth going?
Heidi, there was a public poll taken about how much people are worried about the potential impact, the economic impact of the war in Iran, and many people do brace for some kind of impact because they know that how Japan is dependent on oil imports from the region, and also that's going to affect their daily spending, such as gasoline prices, which is Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi is trying to keep a tab on so hard. So, there's a big question how this inflation push coming from the higher oil is going to square with the momentum that Japan was trying to secure to make sure that this inflation is happening in a positive way, in turn happening with the strong wage growth. That scenario is pushed into a big question mark right now.
Bloomberg economy and government reporter Yoshiaki Nohara, and of course that question mark really to do with the ongoing tensions in the Middle East. Iran and Israel have traded strikes on key energy facilities in the Middle East, complicating U.S. efforts to calm energy markets. U.S. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard has told lawmakers that the regime in Iran appears intact despite U.S. and Israeli attacks.
The IC assesses the regime in Iran appears to be intact, but largely degraded due to attacks on its leadership and military capabilities. Its conventional military power projection capabilities have largely been destroyed, leaving limited options.
Let's bring in Bloomberg Politics editor Laura Davison. Limited options for Iran is the narrative in Washington, but what are we seeing actually on the ground? So on the ground, we see, Iran really going on the offensive today, striking a bunch of energy sites in the region. We had several announcements of, both Qatar and Abu Dhabi of sites that have either been damaged or are going to go offline because they've been damaged, or there's concerns about continuing to operate them. That continues to just put pressure on energy prices. We really saw that. I've seen that in the market over the past 24 hours or so. Oil, hitting near $110. This is a real uptick. Prices had been elevated but stable-ish for some days, and now we're starting to see that worry really creep in as central banks too are also starting to come out with their decisions. Hearing a more modest, more moderated tone from them on not sure exactly what the long-term outlook is like, but from what we're seeing just happening day to day on the ground of increasing uncertainty and more sites that just simply aren't able to produce anymore.
French President Macron speaking right now, saying that he spoke with President Trump, that the Qatar Emir as well, about the Iran strikes, and that he's calling for a moratorium on strikes aimed at civilian assets. What are we seeing from allies? What are we seeing also from other countries in the Middle East?
We're seeing a lot of disagreement. Israel has sort of been most aggressive on this front of, looking to go after some of these sites. Trump has sort of had an evolving position, shall we say, of, he originally, especially Kharg Island is a perfect example. Let's go after military sites, not necessarily energy sites, but he sort of said, well, maybe I would, but I don't want to. And so this is where we're seeing a lot of tension of, to do some of the military things that Israel seems more inclined to do that would, would really damage the regime, would also really damage energy infrastructure and have a lot of ripple effects globally, economically. And so you're seeing concerns that, both you have civilians as well as, civilians in Iran and civilians around the world who would face both the economic and, in the case of Iran, life-threatening consequences with some of these more extreme attacks.
Laura, we just have a line crossing the Bloomberg, and it's quite interesting. The Washington Post reporting that the Pentagon has asked the White House to approve some $200 billion request to Congress in relation to funding this war. What do you make of this, the chances of this going through, given what we know about how public support looks and how support or lack of support from the Democrats might look too?
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I first ditched big wireless and started using Mint Mobile way back in 2019. Back then, you could get premium wireless for only $15 a month. Today, Mint Mobile's premium wireless has gone up by, wow, that's it, zero. It's gone up $0 a month since 2019. That doesn't seem fiscally responsible to me, but again, you're welcome. And I'm not an accountant. Hate math, always hated math. True story, I was in math 10A when I was in 12th grade.
This year, we opened 2 new restaurants while running, how many?
5 others.
5 other restaurants. So we turned to Upwork. We found freelance pros to help with branding, digital menus, even AI tools to streamline operations. It was fast, affordable, and honestly a huge weight off our shoulders. Through platforms like Upwork, we found some freelance creatives who absolutely nailed our logo. Let me show you. Look at our logo. They also help with our menus. Where's our menu? It looks amazing. What's really nice is that you only pay for what you need. There's no overhead. There's no long-term commitment. That kind of flexibility is what small business owners need.
The truth is, small business owners can really do big things. You just have to know how to get there, how to accomplish these things.
And asking for help, that's one strategy that we use all the time. Trying to build a small business or start something from scratch, don't let a small team or small budget stop you. Post a job today at
This is a huge number. I don't know, they have the exact numbers of what the current military budget is in front of me, but this is something, like 20 or 25% of the military's annual budget. So this represents a huge increase. And it's sort of an acknowledgement from the Pentagon that they see this as a very wide scope on this war that potentially lasting for a long time for a $200 billion request from Congress. This is going to be a really, really tough sell in Congress. You have Democrats who are essentially unilaterally opposed. In the Senate, you need some Democratic support to get these funding bills through, and also a lot of Republicans who have long talked about, cutting government waste. Just a year ago, it was all DOGE and how do we shrink the size of the federal government. Now essentially having a huge expansion of government spending will be politically difficult. The White House in this report is sort of acknowledging that this is going to be a really hard sell, and so they're looking to sort of how they can pare this back. But going from $200 billion to a number that both the Pentagon can agree on and members of Congress, that's going to be a very difficult negotiation that could take weeks, if not months. Washington completely distracted right now because of the Iran war. And we have Prime Minister of Japan, Takaichi, in the U.S. We're now hearing that the summit between President Trump and Takaichi, that meeting will be held at 11:15 a.m. Eastern on Thursday. That's tonight. That's going to be tough.
There's a lot going on. I mean, essentially, around almost midnight Tokyo time, they'll go into the Oval Office, they'll sit down, and this is going to be a day that's not particularly great for Trump. Especially he's been very attuned to oil prices. Oil prices are high and rising. This is going to be difficult. Even the administration has not had a lot of options that they've tried to pull. They waived the Jones Act, which is this century-old law that allows ships to move more freely and transport energy commodities around U.S. ports. That only will have a minimal effect to what we've just seen happen today in the Middle East. So Trump is going to go into this meeting not in a particularly good mood. Takaichi even teased that yesterday, saying that this will be an extremely difficult meeting with the president. Meanwhile, she is not in favor of this war. She's indicated in many different ways that Japan will not be sending resources to help support this, and that Japan has a lot of concerns. That has really been Trump's main focus the past week, of how to get allies on board. He's unlikely to get that up Takaichi.
Yeah, the Japanese public hasn't been very supportive of this war, so we'll see what actually comes out of these meetings. Laura Davidson here in the Tokyo studio. She's our Bloomberg Politics editor. Of course, we have plenty more coming up on the Asia trade, together with, of course, a very, very busy news flow. We also have AIA Group CFO Garth Jones joining us next. The insurer now reporting earnings and a $1.7 billion buyback. Now, we get the BOJ rate outlook with former board member Sayuri Shirai, plus we also have a red research on China's tech sector. This as Tencent is now flagging a big increase in AI spending. Much more ahead. This is Bloomberg. Hong Kong-listed insurer AIA Group has reported an increase of 17% in new business value on an actual exchange rate basis. They've also announced a stock buyback worth $1.7 billion. Let's get more on these numbers. Let's bring in Garth Jones, who's the AIA Group CFO. Garth, always great to chat with you. Appreciate your time today on earnings day. But I wanted to start off with the broader macroeconomic and geopolitical environment. Can you tell us if there's any impact or exposure that you're seeing from your business?
Yeah, thank you, Heidi. Always great to be here. Our business is a very long-term business, and it plays to the real needs of people. So we see fluctuations in markets. We see sentiment shift from positive to negative. What we continue to see through the cycles is a strong demand for our products and services because they meet the real needs of people. Our protection and long-term savings products really go to the heart of what people need for their retirement, to protect them for their healthcare and so on. So we still see continued demand. You see that demand coming through in the very strongly excellent results we've posted today. We see good momentum in the business, and we're very confident about the future.
And there's also, of course, private credit as an area to worry about as well. Does the business have any exposure there?
We have a very small exposure. It's about 2% of our assets are invested in private credit. The investment is with the big private credit investor companies. What we see is that the majority of that investment is in senior structured direct lending. We think it's a very attractive asset class if managed very properly. Obviously, we have a very disciplined investment function. We're very focused on credit risk in particular and look through all our exposures. We're very comfortable with our exposure, and as I say, 2% of the overall portfolio of assets.
When you have another war raging in Iran and you have more uncertainty about where global rates are headed, and there seems to be a sort of a narrative that those rate cuts might get delayed, what is the impact when it comes to the uptake of your products and demand out there? Because a lot of these products could also potentially compete with other financial goods out there with high bond yields now being a norm.
What if data didn't sit still? What if intelligence moved with us? Cotality helps communities rise, turning insight into action. Because when intelligence moves, we all move forward. Cotality, intelligence beyond bounds.
Yeah, our products are long term, and with that, they move through cycles. What we have is products that meet the long-term savings needs through a variety of investments. Our stewardship of those assets is very careful. People can be confident that we'll provide good returns to our customers and be there when we need to be there. What we see is that demand comes through into the sales volumes. You saw good growth in volumes. We see that the business is in great shape. We see that the alternatives that are available are still there, but that demand for our products continues through the cycles. And that's really the message that I wanted to get across this morning, is that ours is a long-term business. We see fluctuations from time to time. Clearly on the balance sheet side, we have a very disciplined asset liability management. And we update our products regularly to meet the varying needs of customers as they evolve, particularly for the long-term pensions products. So with that, we continue to see the demand coming. We see the momentum in the business, and we can see that the track record that we have over many years is continuing. And that track record has been built through cycles. We've seen interest rates shift, we've seen curves shift, and that demand continues throughout.
Many Asian economies, of course, are energy importers. Do you see any of that macro stress coming from the Iran crisis leading to some downside pressure? And what are your expectations for positive momentum that you talked about to actually continue into the uncertainties of this year?
Yeah, from a balance sheet perspective, we have a very strong asset liability management, as I said. We have a very strong balance sheet, so from that perspective, we're very secure. From a demand perspective and a growth perspective, we see that the technology that we've used, that we've implemented, has increased the productivity of the agency force, which is 73% of our sales are through the agency force. You saw that grow 13% last year. You see that the partnership business through banks and brokers grew by 22%. What we have is a situation where the fundamental structural drivers of our growth in Asia are still intact. The consumer, the affluent consumer, still has funds, and we see our products as a long-term savings products as a good place to stewardship those funds for good returns to customers. People also have protection needs on a continuing basis, regardless of the macroeconomic environment. So again, good demand, and on the supply side, we see good supply. Our agent recruitment is very strong, and with that, we can see that the sales momentum is very good.
Garth, always great to chat with you. Garth Jones, AIA Group CFO there. More ahead on the Asia trade. This is Bloomberg. Take a look at some of the movers that we're watching so far in the Aussie session. We're about almost half an hour into the start of cash trading. We are seeing a bit of a bifurcated picture there. Some of those energy names, the ones that have really benefited from this surge in oil prices, Woodside Energy, Santos continuing seeing gains. Some of the threats over the LNG infrastructure in the Middle East, we're going to have implications for LNG-related names in this part of the world as well. We are also watching some of the leadership-related changes as well. Of course, we heard that on Woodside as well as BHP Group there as well. BHP's next leader really looking like he's going to face quite a lot of challenges, particularly when it comes to M&A across the business and some of the rebalancing of BHP's portfolio towards copper and away from iron ore. Rio Tinto seeing downside of about 2% at the moment. It will be quite interesting to see how sustained these gains across energy names will be. We had Citibank Wealth saying that in the US, that energy stock rally is likely to peter out, but at the moment, Aussie energy shares continuing to rally. This is Bloomberg. Take a look at how Japanese assets are setting up for the market opens. Of course, we have seen a little bit of more strength for the Japanese yen against the US dollar, and this as we are headed towards a Bank of Japan policy decision. No change expected by the BOJ, but we'll be watching, of course, those clues around the inflationary outlook and whether that could lead to the BOJ to act sooner rather than later. Perhaps April is a key question, as you have the yen trading very close to that 160 level that's already seen as that threshold for intervention. So we are again on the intervention watch. We have already heard from the Finance Minister Katayama saying that authorities are looking very closely at FX moves at a time when we're also watching very closely that Takaichi Trump summit in the United States tonight. Take a look at Nikkei futures down more than 2% at the moment. But let's discuss what we can expect from the BOJ. Sayuri Shida is a professor of economics at Keio University and previously served as a board member at the Bank of Japan. Sayuri, always great to get you on BOJ Day. There was really not much expectation of a rate move by the BOJ at this meeting, but I wonder, given that we do have the chaos around the Middle East and, of course, oil prices surging, if this will give a little bit more justification for the BOJ to hold, despite a little bit of more strength when it comes to wages and the broader economy.
Yeah, I think dilemma faced by Bank of Japan is even more strengthened because inflation is coming down. Actually, in January, inflation was dropped to 1.5, below 2%, and thanks to that, the real wage turned into the positive. So I think BOJ expected inflation will stay below 2% for a while, and then toward the end of this year, the economy recovery pick up. So the inflation starts to go up again to reflect the rising demand. But this scenario is no longer valid. So BOJ really have to check. Their scenario is still makes sense, and then next April meeting they are going to show the new projection.
The Shinto wage negotiations also seem to have gone well with people getting big pay bumps this year as well. If the BOJ has been saying that it was about wage growth and also inflation dynamics, and you have that cost inflation because of oil prices, wouldn't this be the right time to act sooner rather than later?
So if this Middle East issue didn't happen, it was possible for BOJ to raise interest rate in April. But now, in the past 2 years, the Shinto, wage negotiation leads to the 5% increase in wages. But this is only among large companies. If you include small, medium enterprises, the wage growth was a little above 2%. So small, medium enterprises very slow to adjust in terms of wage hike. And now, because of this, Middle East issue, and we depend so much on Middle East oil and naphtha, so I think it's a bit more stagflationary. So BOJ has to be a bit more careful in terms of raising interest rate. Also, yen's depreciation is the biggest concern.
Most businesses, hiring can take a long time. Not for Susan, though. She uses ZipRecruiter to find quality candidates fast. Spend less time hiring and more time building your business. Try for free at ZipRecruiter.com.
Like, whoa. Everywhere I go, heads turning, looking at me like, whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
In terms of raising interest rate. Also, yen's depreciation is the biggest concern.
How fragile is that sentiment when it comes to business sentiment, when it comes to the strength of the virtuous cycle?
Yeah, so BOJ always says there is a virtuous cycle from wage to prices, but to be honest, that hasn't happened because many companies say they raise wages because living costs are much higher and the serious labor shortage forced them to raise wages defensively. So it's not really virtuous cycle. But if inflation has stayed low, it was possible that real wages finally starts to go increase and stay there. But I think now, let's see what will happen to this oil price. Gasoline prices are already much higher now, so it's not going to be the same story.
When it comes to the yen, has tolerance in terms of a higher ceiling or a lower ceiling, I guess you can say, when it comes to yen weakness, has that shifted?
Yeah, this is a dangerous zone now. So it's now nearly 160. I think today, after Governor Ueda's meeting, during meeting, people are really paying attention to what he will say. Remember in the previous meeting, January 23rd, yen was decreasing sharply, right? Reflecting the Takaichi-san's view, expansion fiscal policy, etc. So yen was depreciating, and during the press conference, Ueda mentioned that he's not going to, raise interest rate anytime soon. So such kind of a dovish, remark led to the sharp depreciation yen to nearly 160. And then there was a rumor about New York Fed rate check, right, led by U.S. Treasury. So thanks to that, yen started to appreciate. But this time, it's not a Japan's issue, right? It's a U.S. dollar strength. So it's very unlikely that the U.S. New York Fed will do the rate check this time. So it's more challenging for Japan in terms of yen's depreciation.
President Trump doesn't necessarily care about all of those macroeconomic dynamics, and he's probably in a very bad mood right now because of things around Iran. What are the risks going into that summit? Because I remember just a couple of years ago, too, before President Trump became very friendly with Prime Minister Takaichi, he did not like weakness in the Japanese yen.
Yeah, so yes. So he doesn't like the yen's depreciation, and also Best Cent also say Bank of Japan should raise interest rate, so certainly true. But at this moment, I think U.S. understand this, strength of U.S. dollar and the depreciation of Japanese yen together with Korean won is related to Middle East and our excessive dependence on Middle East. So I think issue will be not exchange rate this time at the White House meeting on the U.S. time today. It's more about security issue, I think.
How much is it of a domestic political issue for Prime Minister Takaichi as well, given that the Japanese public is not very happy with the Iran war at a time when household living costs are also going up? Does the macroeconomic situation present a risk for Prime Minister Takaichi?
Yes and no, because she abolished some kind of gasoline tax at the end of last year. Thanks to that, the gasoline price dropped by 25 yen. But now, because of this Middle East issue, the gasoline prices went back. And so, thanks to this tax cut, gasoline prices are much better than what could have happened. So in that sense, we cannot really, put a lot of pressure to her. I think, it's more issue is, how we move away from Middle East dependence, and then probably we'll put more investment in U.S. oil and gas. And so that will be discussed. And I think public is a bit more worried about conflict side in Middle East.
Sayuri Shirai, always great to have you with us, Professor of Economics at Keio University. Let's take a look at the picture that is, of course, confounding so many policymakers. That will be top of mind for the Bank of Japan when it comes to this slagflationary risk, and it is what we're watching when it comes to oil prices. Again, we're seeing really the way up for not just, of course, we're seeing Brent crude seeing kind of the bulk of those gains, which of course impacts economies in Asia more so than the New York traded crude, which is still seeing some gains, but a little bit less of that momentum. Natural gas futures also up by 4% as we continue to see now extensive damage being reported from Qatar at the world's largest LNG plant. So the Qatari complex housing that LNG gas export plant seeing extensive damage after a missile strike. It's really another escalation in hostilities across the region, but also really presents this idea that as we get energy infrastructure being targeted in the Middle East, that could be a longer lasting sort of damage than even potentially seeing the Strait of Hormuz being reopened. Well, the Carlyle Group's Jeff Curry says oil markets have not fully priced in the supply shock from the war in Iran. He also told us that the lifting of sanctions on Russian crude will support the surge in Brent and WTI.
Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free, plus get your biggest refund. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. No schedules except for Earned Income Tax Credit, Child Tax Credit, and Student Loan Interest. File now.
Hey there, no need to adjust your TV, or more likely your phone. You're watching a recycled commercial. See, at Mint Mobile, we're always looking for innovative ways to save our money so we can save you money. So instead of paying for a new commercial, we're reusing this old one. And that means means we can afford to keep offering you premium wireless for just $15 a month. We only made one change. You probably didn't even notice. The bigger factor that was likely driving WTI and Brent and staying lower is the price of Urals, Russian crude oil. It's rallied $65, $70 a barrel once they took off the sanctions. So WTI and Brent were the high-cost barrels. The Russian was the cheap. What happened? You closed that gap. And now that you've closed that gap, you don't have any more spare barrels in the system, and this rest of the complex likely to start to rally. I go back to the point that, John started with is, we're dealing with an enormous supply shock. And by the way, the supply shock is almost equal to the demand shock during COVID. And we know what that did to global supply chains. So I think, at $100 a barrel, this thing's mispriced, even against the physical market.
There is a sense, though, that this time is a bit different than, say, the 1970s in terms of the world's reliance on oil, especially China, how much they've diversified to electric vehicles, to nuclear energy, and other places as well. How much do you think that that is going to be the growing trend, to diversify the sources of energy in myriad ways beyond what we were doing even during the so-called Green Revolution as people try to avoid these types of shocks?
Well, I absolutely argue that, the renewables, nuclear power are born out of the 1973 energy crisis. And this is going to unleash an enormous amount of investment into renewables, nuclear power, and other localized energy sources. The problem, though, is we call this the new dual order. The problem is that we haven't got to that transition where we have electrified everything, localized it. And the type of oil consumption that's left in the global economy is critical. And so if you pull those barrels out of the system, the rippling effect or the cascading effect through global supply chains is going to be significant. You go from gas to urea to fertilizers to the dinner table. Or you go from LPGs to synthetic fibers to cotton. You switch out of soybeans and corn into cotton. By the way, I think the best sector to try to get value in right now would be agriculture because it hasn't priced it in.
Jeff, when it comes to barrels coming off the market, this came from an industry consultant in terms of China. They're looking at potentially a drawdown in commercial and operational stockpiles amounting to as much as 1 million barrels a day. That can happen over the next 4 to 6 weeks. What would that mean for the price of crude?
I think the key point is once you exhaust those inventories, there's nothing left. Think about it this way. You have demand up here, supply down here. Once those inventories are exhausted, boom, you have to bring demand down in line with supply.
Carlisle Chief Energy Strategist Jeff Curry there speaking to Bloomberg Surveillance. The top global headlines were following. India is sending additional warships to the Middle East to ensure the safe passage of its vessels in anticipation that Iran may allow more of its fuel tankers to exit the Strait of Hormuz. Sources have told Bloomberg that the Indian Navy is deploying over half a dozen warships as a precautionary measure. Their mission will be to escort vessels until they reach safer waters in the northern Arabian Sea. China's military is said to be studying President Trump's war in Iran for lessons that could be helpful in any future conflict of its own. Western officials have told Bloomberg that Beijing is gaining valuable information from America's military performance in Iran that would factor into plans for potential conflict over Taiwan. China's Ministry of Defense did not reply to a request for comment. More ahead on the Asia trade, this is Bloomberg. Migrant shares fell in after-hours trading after the largest U.S. maker of computer memory chips warned that it will need to spend heavily on production to meet burgeoning demand. Let's bring in Bloomberg Asia Equities reporter Yu-Young Lee for the latest from New York. So, Yu-Young, the forecast was pretty upbeat. Demand seems to be good, but so many concerns around the costs.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's exactly why the shares are falling right now. Investors seem to be really concerned that Micron is spending heavily on its capital expenditures, and it was giving the forecast that in 2020, this fiscal year through August, it will be spending 25 billion, which is more than what analysts expected at around 22 billion.
We come from a real environment where it's a crab in the bucket mentality, where, you know what I mean, everybody doing bad. So when one person starts to move forward and become a little bit successful, but you still within reach of these people, it's very hard because, you're dealing with the pressures of trying to be successful as well as pressure of people intentionally waking up to try to bring harm your way. You know what I mean? And try to stop you from doing that, because if I grew up on the same block you grew up on, we had the same trials and tribulations, but you became successful and I became a failure, made me feel a certain way about myself. Because we had the same dealt the same difficulties. You know what I mean? So I feel like my success affects people closest to me the most. A person that don't know me might root for me. You know what I mean? And be happy for me. The person that know me and come from the same environment, had the same core dealt to them, that keep going to jail, don't have no money, never made their parents proud or their mama proud, never did anything that they could look in the mirror and be proud of. You know what I mean? It can make them feel a certain way. It's intense. And that manifests into jealousy, hate, violence. You know what I mean? It's deep because it's a stigma of artists becoming Hollywood, especially street artists going Hollywood. But it's almost like if you don't, you sacrifice yourself for the opinions of others. You know what I mean? So people look at you as a keep real instead of doing your heart, doing what you know you got to do to attain that goal. So like I said, it's a cold balance. I had to stop smoking just because I need my whole mind. I got to use my whole brain. I can't be high making decisions. I got to be fully short. You know what I mean? But I had to cut a lot of people off. There's a lot of people mad at me right now. But, I had to make a decision that I'd rather other people be mad at me than I'll be mad at myself. Come from a real environment where it's a crap. And says, oh, Bob ripped them. Oh. Wait. What are you trying to talk about? Yes, everybody didn't catch the line. But you see this shot. And he says
at the barbershop.
Yeah.
That's where your face got cut.
Yeah,
that's what he's trying to reference. Yeah.
But he referenced that, but he also referenced the guy's name.
Oh, that was his name?
Yeah.
Bar?
Yeah.
Oh.
He referenced his name. So now I'm thinking, okay, now this is personal. Now you're talking street. People now are like intrigued by that story. In general. The only reason why that conversation is relevant is because he cut me. Why nobody's talking about a whole bunch of cut? It's only because he cut me that makes it relevant. And now you saying it, I don't know why he's saying it as if it was like a strike against my character, because it's not. We cut each other, okay?
You cut him first, he cut you back.
I cut him first, he cut me back.
Me and him just been through something as kids. We playing razor tag in the law. I batted or he batted. It wasn't nothing like that. New York was a different type of time.
Yeah, that's a fact.
We was blowing guns in the town, hammers, came to jail. We had razors and knives, so that's what we was doing each other.
I cut many guys. All right? It is what it is. I got to my cell. Called it the Mirror Power Squad. Oh. Working my face. And the stitches was like, I felt like 50 stitches. All right, so now when he does that, I'm saying, oh, he going to like street. And this is why now I can't even, I gave him his credit. I can't give him to him no more. And says,
Turns out the government tracks a lot of data, and it's scattered all over.
Welcome
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, children of all ages, to the Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to get to tonight. We got a lot to get to right off the bat. Okay, it's 2026, and we have some breaking election news coming out of the great state of North Korea, because with all precincts reporting, we're ready to call North Korea's Supreme People's Assembly election, and incumbent madman Kim Jong-un has won with 99.93% of the vote. Congratulations to Un, friend of the show. He has done so many cold opens for us. Thank you, sir. We may have our differences, but you got to hand it to him. He really rallied support with his stirring campaign slogan, I have your family. Yeah, you know, simple. You gotta reach the people. In second place, with 0.0% of the vote, was Andrew Cuomo. Better showing. It was a better showing than expected. Now, the last 3 weeks, I've been talking a lot about the situation in Iran. And I want to stop doing that, but Iran keeps being a situation. Case in point, yesterday, we got the resignation of Director of the National Counterterrorism Center and Home Perm Cautionary Tale, Joe Kent. Yesterday, in protest against the war with Iran, Kent posted a letter of resignation explaining that he had seen the intelligence and Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation.
Dwight Howard's. Oh boy. Yeah, that's what we started. Dwight Howard's bag of cocaine. Their bag of cocaine. Yeah. Allegedly, it was word. Allegedly, it was like no cocaine. I heard. I mean, she did it. Wow. Even though I think so, should we say he did it? No. That's why it's alleged. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I saw her with the bag, though. So you can see that. I saw her with the bag. I didn't see her with the bag. Smoke, no snort them. Hey, yo, a lot of the cocaine heads said that's not the real coke. They look like real cocaine. They scream. I'm not a cocaine head, but seeing bags of cocaine. That shit was loud. Coke heads was killing that. I think some bullshit happened. She just tried to clean it up. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. So let's tell the fans what happened. I thought you planned something. Yeah, I'm going to get the clip. Oh, okay. Hell, this is not the white. This is Trump. The only rapper ever in the history of mankind to threaten me was Big L. And he was my little brother. You know, he was wearing white tee, shining. The only rapper ever in the history of man. You know, he was wearing white tee, shining, blood all on his white tee. I'm like, you Sean, what happened? You know, Sean beat the security guard up. He beat the security guard up. You remember that? I said, Sean, what's good? He said, nah, man, it was out of pocket, man. So we think everybody's coming downstairs to see who it was. It was a security guard. So that fuck is really tight because Sean beat his security up. It's like 6'6". Yeah. Like 6'6", but they was in the elevator, so you know it's who get off first. So we come downstairs, and everybody lost respect for all security. You know, people with IQ higher than 130 can connect the same current dots without overlapping lines.
My childhood friends, all fucking hilarious, all funny, man. Oh, 512M, white going up right now. He's going to corporate. Damn, we're gonna start the morning like that. All right, we're gonna start the morning like that. That's how we start the morning. What the is it? Unbelievable. Very nice. I don't know the mileage on that car, but I'll find out later. It's already up. It's for sale. 504-202-5915. One of three in whites. 512 Lima. That's the way to start the day. That's it. Man.
Hi, I'm
504-202-5915. It sounds like a big MR2. That's exactly what it is. I don't understand this. This does not make sense. So
Hi, I'm George. The best quote I heard. We can't let Kyrie Irving in the '07. I do believe that the best gift I could possibly. Okay, fellas, we have a Ukraine peace deal. Vladimir, you get more of Ukraine. Zelensky, you get less of an army. But I will defend you in case of sustained attack by Vladimir over here. What the fuck is this? I'm not conceding 30,000 square miles of stolen land to my enemies. Well, you conceded $100 million of stolen money to your friends. So, no, what? You let your friends get rich too? Yes, but unlike you, I do it openly. Anyway, that's the deal, fellas. Are we taking it or not? Objection, Vladimir.
this is one of my favorite channels.
But what does sustained attack mean? What is sustained?
You
I don't know,
want
like
him or no?
sustain, like for a while.
Yo, I'm
Like,
freezing.
you know, like a while.
But I do it for you. It's
Yeah,
okay.
maybe hours, like
I'm bundled up.
time you spent with the girl at the Epstein place. Vladimir, I'd like it if this peace deal made people talk less about the Epstein stuff, will you please? Yes. Wait, I also want to know what's a while. Oh, you do with the semantics now. Gee. Proposal. Anything shorter than Taylor's all-too-well 10-minute version is fair game. 10-minute version? No, regular version. Regular version.
Yo, those are the 3 remixes we got. Oh, that's what's up. I got a shout out. Hold on, I'm gonna send that to corporate. That's going up. That's going up.
You get less of an army, but I will defend you.
Yo, follow me on LinkedIn, yo. I'm sort of a big deal over there. Just a little something, something. But I gotta let y'all go, man. I gotta go help my family out. So see y'all in a little bit. I gotta get to my office. My deck's looking good. My deck's looking good. Look at my deck. Look at my deck. Enzo for sale. SV for sale. Article Future Tech Plus. 512M. And of course, G0 Media. Puppet Regime. New campaign. Shout out to all my business partners and my family. We'll see you in a little bit. But before we start the day, I'm gonna let y'all chill for a little bit, but let's get a quick prayer in. You ready? Thank you, Heavenly Father, for all the blessings in our lives. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for all the blessings in our lives. We worry not about what we don't have. We're in the process of getting it. And in that journey, everything we do is getting. Amen. Amen. Yo, mosquito bites. 1, 2, 3. Horrible. Look what it has done. But I have to drain it because if not, it won't heal. Extremely painful. So let's see what else we have in the market. At least I get to tell you guys a little bit, especially now that we have a 512M on sale, baby. But I needed my coffee. I needed my coffee, yo. It's freezing. It's freezing, yo. I'm gonna get gloves. I'm gonna get some gloves. I have to write the priority list. Let's see what we got for trade-ins, baby. Let's see, let's see, let's see. No way. Yo, put a bid on that car right there. 2019 SVJ. I got it to a bunker, yo. Damn, that is super duper tempting. What? This car has to be modified. There's no way. Nero Aldebaran paint, add personam interior. Rosso Mars brake calipers. That's my option. The steering interior carbon trim. It's not a roadster, it's a hard body. Damn. All right, let's save that one. Save that. Yo, honestly, you can pull that car off the line. Yo, now for some reason I want it even more, yo. 88,000 miles running beautifully in front of the Bachman collection. Well, part of it. It's not the whole collection. We're still number one, but it's, it's not the whole collection. We're missing some cars. Um, damn, boy. Damn. Yo, this right here is an anomaly, which gives me hope to get any other one because I know that they go for the long term. Damn. It's in pretty good condition, to be honest with you. I don't see anything wrong. I'm gonna check the engine for any modifications. I don't see anything out of the ordinary here. Yo, this shit is a fucking monster. This car is a monster. This car is a monster. Yep. Oh, and they moved it too. Excellent. We could keep that car right there, that part of the dealership, because the Bachman collection is right next to it. So let's go. Sold, baby. Sold, sold, sold. Damn. Okay. So, my bad. I have to change this too. Wow. At the perfect time, too. At the perfect time. Okay, I know what to do. Program it this way. Yo, I'm very proud. I would like to know the history of that car. Or if it's a clean title. So it looks like there could be an issue with that title. Well, we don't know. I'm going to jump to conclusions. If the title comes back clear, then we'll buy it. If the title comes back, more than 2 or 3 owners, no. Now, can we still use it? I don't know. I got another one I could trade for. Very nice. Create success. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Yeah. It matches my other black one. This one got the wing molded. It got the wing on this one molded. All right. So before I go, let me just check the rest of my inventory because today is Thursday, so Ferraris is in. But before I do that, I need to check this inventory. Of course, you guys can go check me out on Whatnot. and the 25th anniversary. We have to move those cars. They look too similar, and when you take pictures of one, you're constantly like, is it the other one? Because I have one with like 700-ish miles. This one is 73. So this is my father's car. But why did we park it on that side of the office? If anything, that one should be on the inside and then take the other two out. Man, this shit is clean. Yeah, I don't want to hear my father's. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna be tight. Move this car back. Stock number Z89C A0584L. This is a 90. It's not an 89. LLA 12076. Number 76. Let me see if okay, you guys put the plastics on it. That's gonna keep the plastics on it because you know how my father is. Alright, so take that car offline. I'm gonna put that away. Oh, and look right there, they're all showing up in the inventory. All titles came in clear. Okay, good. So those titles are done. Those cars are ready for sale, but they're not going to be sold right now. So that's good. New arrival. What else we got? This is Sensa. It has what, 5 more miles than the other one. But I have to see if this has been titled. If it has not been titled, then I can put full warranty on it. 830. Stock number CNSCV12. It's in the Sensa SCV12. This is 1MLA 10215. 6 miles on it. This is a personal car and it's off the line. I'm missing there's a green and white one, but somebody might be writing a deal on that car. We gotta call Bunker, find out what we could do. Oh, you know what it is? This one has the heritage package. It's gonna be more money. I don't think my client could pay this premium. But we could keep it on the list. You know, the Maserati MC12, that deal took fucking 4 months to close. So this is nothing new. If he's not a proof of financing, then we need to figure out maybe a trading situation or something like that. I'll give him a good deal on the SVJ. He has to take both of them. I'm not going to lose on the other card just because I don't want to lose a customer. You know what I'm saying? Right now, the way that things are going is too much. Let me see. So now that means more work for today. Let me see. GT3. Those could go to Miami. Turbo S, that could go to Miami. The others we could keep here in Orlando because you see, this Gallardo, it has the wheels of a Superleggera, but it is not. Pagani's off the line. Oh, the Spider went up in price. What? So okay, so we got to do a new marketing campaign on this one because the price went up. Wow, I got a good deal on that car. It's $30,000 profit right there. One car. That's very hard to do, especially that color. I got a silver one, but it's already spoken for, so it don't even count. I got the 05, but it's all the way in California. You're gonna have to wait 3 weeks for that. Urus trade-in. Gallardo with the body kit off the line. It's one of the brother shit. Another one. I don't understand it. People invest. Why are you so worried? Why are you so nervous? If the car goes, it goes. And if not, we're not going to sell it for below what we paid for it. It's not a charity, you know what I'm saying? Let's see what else we got. And then we will do Testeros. Huracan Spider, 17,000. 5,000 more. I got one with 9,000. That's a no-brainer. But if we're going to do a dealer trade, you got to take both cars. I got a 17 and a 16. The 16 has less miles. Urus, I got a silver one with 9,000 miles on it. Orenco Reales, that one's 23,000 miles. Not selling that car. Huracan Spider, too much. Wow, 17, way too much. 911 Turbo S21. And I got a 21 AMG GT Black Series. That's it. I'm only doing pay on those tradings. That's it. Done, done, done. So I'll shake this down. And okay. So now we can sign off. Have an amazing day today. May you conquer everything you path and everything that you touch turn into solid gold bars and silver bars and beautiful and precious gemstones such as laboratory grown diamonds or moissanite or any laboratory grown gem. Always remember to dream big because dreams come true. It happened to me, and I know for a fact it's going to happen to you. We'll see you in a little bit. So faster than you can do this, I'll be in my office where it's nice and cozy cut. I am freezing. Mauricio, you got work to do. I got some shit for you, right? I think.